Alright, perfect. Well, thank you for having me.
Always.
I guess I should do a little introduction of myself. My name is LuFL, Locked Up for Life. I am somebody, well, I guess known for playing Uni and DNF at a higher level, and, well, I've been brought on today to discuss the game, or discuss, well, DNF in particular, and its health and some of the stories I have with the game.
That is going to be tonight's preceding chapter of the Space Bridge as I make a returning documentative piece here into the Dungeon Fighters community and take a specific pivot for our assessment, usually trying to delve more into the community sense. Let's also try and delve into the competitive sense of it and how the comp scene had also successfully affected a lot of people. It could have affected people positively or it could have affected people negatively. LuFL that I have here, it affected him in a way that's allowed him to see the deeper prospect of it, and we're going to delve into that tonight.
Yeah. I've had the community do some gracious things for me. I've gotten to go on some trips that I never really would have had the DNF community not given me the chance. And, well, I only have them to thank, and so I'm willing to just at least tell my stories that I have.
Gotcha. All right, let's go ahead and hop on into it gradually. So, what introduced you into DNF and DFO?
Well, I'm just a fighting game player, really. I never really touched DFO personally, but I did see the trailers for DNF when they were first coming out, and I thought Ranger looked fucking sick. And so I tried out the beta. And during the beta, I realized, yeah, there's no fucking way I'm playing Ranger. This combo structure is not for me. But Vanguard clicked, and so I said, okay, I'm not sure how I feel on this game yet. I'm gonna give it a little bit of time, and I'm gonna see what comes of it. And so I didn't actually buy the game until a little later, after Otaku 22. And it was mainly just because during 2022, I had personally just wanted to focus all of my efforts into Uni, into my results in that game, because especially around that time, I was coming up on a major that I felt like I had to do well at. That being the French Bread Major Climax. But that is its own separate tangent to go into. Not really too relevant to the question here. I got in around Taku, or a little bit after CEO Taku 22, and onto console, adjusted over to PC a little later, and started streaming the game, which, actually, no, that does segment into the next question, does it?
That can, in a way, in terms of understanding like how the community was like back in those years. Yeah, that can segue
Yeah,
into it a little bit.
I was gonna say that kind of easily drifts into it, where it was like, when I was playing, I didn't really watch anyone else personally. I know that there were people streaming. There was GrayCapedHero, who has been streaming and still streams today. And I will give a shout out to that guy because he's bringing back NA brackets starting next week on Wednesday, which is very nice to see. But like, there was Gray streaming. There was a guy named Black Ace, I remember. GoldenEye, who's one of the few Rangers that we still have left. That guy won Combo Breaker, the last major that we had that we were like a main game at. There was Huebert with the tournament series. And then the Shadow Royalty guys running rollback. A lot of tournament stuff back then, but there was not really too many people streaming the game that were like building the community that high. Well, barring like at that time, I think the only big name that we had that was actively streaming was like Sonicsol. but that was its own chapter of like the community. I couldn't really speak on it because I didn't interact with him much myself, so I couldn't really talk about like how he influenced the community. But personally, to me, there wasn't many people who were like streaming and making content, but I would just play the game, stream myself, and open up lobbies for people, and just hope that that did enough. And I saw other people doing the same, and it was good. It was good for a time when we still had people and still had well, not to delve in and spoil something a little later, but when we still had a little more faith in the developers for the game. But
Yeah.
that's really the best way I can put the influencers bit.
Next question. Going into the community of yesteryear, what were a lot of the community elements like back then for you?
I mean, for me, it was like that was a time where the game was more populated, so you could realistically just go into the Reddit Discord and ping for games and actively just like, oh, okay, here I'm gonna run a set, and it felt like any other standard Discord fighter in that way. Uh, and that wasn't bad to me. It was something I was familiar with because PSN Uni back in like 2019, the only way you were getting games was, boot up the Discord, go search. So that felt fine to me. And like, if you wanted to, you could boot up, find whatever streamer decided they wanted to stream, and like host a lobby, and just go play them. Uh, and like besides that, it was really there wasn't too much. It was like, oh well, you have everybody that's still streaming, everybody paying for games. It's still active enough that things just kind of flew, or they flowed naturally. There wasn't any stress to it compared to more so now, where the community is a lot quieter, and there's a lot of people that don't really play anymore that used to. Myself included, honestly, I don't play as much as I did back in the day. However, I do know that other regions still like have a better sense of community, I would say.
Other
Specifically,
regions.
yeah. So there's a lot of regional discords for the game. Like Japan has their own Discord, Korea has their own Discord, and I think specifically Korea, the Korean scene has been very good with how they've like kept up with the game. They have their own streamers too. That well, I will say were more active back then, and some of them are the top leaderboards on like PC. They would be the main people streaming the game, and they gave back to the community a good bit. Like they would make content and like constantly be trying to help out new players. And even now, whenever I see somebody new hop into the Korean Discord, they get like they ask questions and result like people will answer them pretty quickly. They'll give them all the responses they can. It's not to say that doesn't happen in the NA Discord, but like the players there are also more active in terms of, can I get games at this time? Like, can I get the practical experience, if that makes sense?
Okay. How many people used to how many people used to like really engage? I guess North America wise.
North America, we had like I would remember booting up and we'd have like uh sizable like couple hundred people. You'd boot up the game, you'd still get games. Now was it that ever like actually that popular at like one time? Nah, probably not. I would have to have numbers from back then, which I unfortunately just don't right now. Or like player count numbers that I just don't have. But I imagine the statistics are out there, and you can like check how, or not check how, but check when the major decline was. Although I would say really, the game started, or the game stopped really drawing in new people after the DLC season started, which sounds weird to say, but
Yeah, because its first DLC season was like a few months or several months
a
after
year.
the initial mechanics change. Oh, a year, okay.
So hold on, let me correct myself. You said system mechanics changed.
Yeah,
They
the
had two
big
balance
one that they had.
patches. Two balance patches, and then the DLC season started, and that's when they started adding new mechanics. There were changes to the system mechanics beforehand, like the original patch of the game didn't have frame one rolls, and then one of the earlier patches added in frame one rules, which was like a big change at the time where it was like, oh, well, now you can mash out pretty much anywhere, even if you have like a middling DP, but roll can always be baited, which when we get into the DLC season patch, which will happen a little later, if anything, you'll see why that or where that sort of mix up ended of just like, oh, there's another option here that's just it adds too much to this in the defender's favor. But I think the drop off happened there. And it's actually kind of because the new system mechanics now that I'm like putting it together, and I think that actually works out for the fourth question on the list, right? If I remember correctly.
It goes into that roughly. Like, if you want to go into like I guess the mechanic outline or what would be
Uh,
like broken mechanics.
I can give you two, and I know you've heard one from other people before. Indomitable Spirit is the worst thing they added to this game.
It really is that bad.
It is okay. Let me explain the other thing first, because that will make, or that's easier to explain. It would just make more sense as like something simple, and that is backroll. When Spectre released, since she was the first DLC character, they changed three things. One thing I think was good, but the execution of it was bad, that being the cube system, where you have the 50% and 30% cubes that you can choose between. The problem here is that in most characters' cases, the 50% is just so strong in comparison. Like, I think a big offender of this is Ranger, where they took what his original awakening was, which was at 30% at release, which is debuffs that he can apply to the opponent whenever he hits them, which is take more damage, deal less damage, and like deal or take more like guard damage. Also, mana recovery. One of those is wrong, but I know mana recovery is also there. But
Hmm.
he is just like, oh yeah, all these are applied. And then when that patch dropped, that very strong awakening that you used to be able to gatekeep Ranger out of, because if you had to take somebody to 30% HP, you could put them at like 35 and then kill them from a combo above that point at a realistic like health lead or a health deficit, right?
Right.
Uh, Now he got it at 50%, and as well as him getting it 50%, that would lead into Indomitable Spirit, but I'll cycle back to it because we have to talk about another thing, and I'll continue to use Ranger as the example here. Back roll got added to this game. And remember how I'd mentioned everybody got a frame one reversal and roll, but you could always bait roll if they tried to move forward on it. So there was always like, or you could make a meaty that was safe to both roll and just like blocking or a DP. This was a thing that you could do. Then they added back roll, and neutral just died that day. I mean, not neutral just died, but meaties just died that day.
So you respectfully can't truly meaty in the video game in order to stop people from pressing a button or respecting shit.
The problem is you can't chase forward roll and back roll at the same time with everybody in the cast. It's just very inconsistent to do so. Not many characters have the tools to do it consistently, and the ones that do, well, I don't know. I mentioned this before the stream, but a certain striker character can be whiff canceling a lot of things, and it makes it very easy for her to chase both rolls. And that's just one example of top tier privilege in this version of the game. But there's a lot of stuff that's just like, well, if my character has this, I'm good. If my character doesn't have this, I might be struggling. And being able to chase both roles at once is one of those things, but it's not the biggest one. The biggest thing that you need is a way to be able to punish Indomitable Spirit, which is... I have to ask, has anybody given you the full rundown of the 4 things it does?
In terms of the rolling aspect?
No, not the rolling aspect. Indomitable Spirit.
Oh, Gone Mad went into a couple of facets about its spirit in terms of it allowing health regen at a certain point, I think.
So let me explain. It does 4 things at once. The first one is it gives you white life for using it. And this is supposed to be the punishment of it. But it ends up being... Or, well, I say punishment, quote-unquote, but it's not really. And that's because getting white life in this game gives you access to a different mechanic, conversion, which rewards you for using IS well by giving you essentially what is like a uni CS, but without the invul. Because uni CS, you get 1 frame of invul. In DNF, conversion has 3 dead frames at the start, and then you can do whatever the fuck you want. But you essentially just have that cancel for whenever the fuck you want it on offense. And
cancel it whenever.
Now, yeah, you can cancel whatever button. Well, actually, no, I lie. Not DPs, but everything but reversals with conversion. And this led to something a little unhealthy with IS, which is you block a button, you IS it, so you get a little bit of white life, and then you back roll away. And now you set up whatever situation you want to for, like, neutral. And if you fuck up, you conversion, you block, and there you go again. But to explain, it does, like I said, 4 things. First, gives you white life. Second, it negates the guard damage of not the move that you IS'd, but the move after it if it's a gapless block string. It just negates guard damage. You have the guard bar in this game, it just negates that. You don't take the guard damage for that next hit. Very simple. Now, number 3. It negates all knockback or vacuum effects. If you have a move that would pull you in, you are just standing there, and the opponent is drifting backwards. If you have a move that would knock you back, the opponent is just doing fucking nothing to you. Or, God forbid, they are moving forward, they are just stepping into your range.
That's kind of productive, yeah.
Yeah.
It stops vacuuming effects.
It stops vacuuming or knockback, both of which can be important. And then the 4th thing, which is where people get confused. It makes blockstun consistent.
Oh, that's fucked up.
Every single move in the game, when you use IS, becomes 25 frames of blockstun.
That is super fucked.
You can make a move plus that's normally minus. You can make a minus move plus. You have a lot of things that can happen with this. And if you delay if you delay the mechanic, then you're gonna just fuck up and make those moves more plus. So you obviously have to do it fast. You have to make those decisions quickly. And like I said, the problem with this is IS. Think about what I just explained to you, right?
Mm-hmm.
As a beginner to the game, would you be able to understand all of the applications of a move or of a system mechanic that does all those things at once?
No. This is like understanding the premise and the layering of something like Spark on Fighters, or what was it? X Factor on Marvel versus Capcom, and trying to understand this shit at face value. You can't do it.
Yeah, exactly. The system mechanic is so obtuse that you don't understand it as a beginner, which is a problem because you can't just go to a beginner and tell them, as like when they start asking for matchup advice, oh, just IS. It doesn't translate. It doesn't make sense to them.
Yeah, like they might pick that up eventually, but then okay, what is that going to mean? Because it's not like it's not exactly a get out of jail free card where it's like, okay, when your back's against the wall, you could use an X Factor or just Spark in order to respond, and then you can go from there.
Yeah.
That's not the same thing.
Yeah, it's not like it's a get off me tool. It's something you have to commit to in a block string. And when they added this mechanic, there's two like limitations it has, right? Or well, really one, and that is you cannot tech throws while you are in IS block stun. And this is important because in the same patch they added it. They made it so that every single A and B normal in the game is on hit and on block cancelable into throw. So if you did like 2A into throw and they IS'd it and made it like 25 frames of block stun, they ate that throw. This leads to its own separate issue. That being, throws give you white life in this game. And if you remember what I was talking about before with conversion, people are already doing IS just to get white life, so that they can go and use conversion in their game plan, in their neutral.
That doesn't sound productive for the early stages.
Yeah, and the problem with that is the counterplay that you're supposed to use to the system mechanic. It just gives them what they want. Do I want to not give them white life by stopping them from using IS? What's my punish? Throw. What does throw do? Give them white life. Okay. So what am I supposed to do? You just have to play the game of conversion.
In order for them to get around stacking unnecessary health, you gotta just kind of
do the
chicken
unnecessary
neutral.
health. White life is health that you take away. It's like chip damage, right?
Yeah, like blue life.
Yeah. So, the difference, well, there's not really too big a difference. It's just when you use conversion, you take away that health and a small little chunk more, and it refunds as meters, similar to how Vorpal Cash Out does in Uni, which is why I related it to CS, because that also does the same thing. It's just here's your money. And in the same way that you would use it on offense in Uni, it's just like, oh well, my turn that would have normally ended here, yeah, no, here, hold my shit for the next another 10 seconds.
My gosh.
The problem is, like, all these system mechanics were fine beforehand, right? Conversion was fine before everyone had access to it constantly, because there was two characters in the game that were balanced around, like, taking away their own health, and there were characters with armor that could take away their own health, but that was its own risk, right?
Right.
And the same thing for the characters that had ways to give themselves white life. You had Troubleshooter, who he has a move where he takes some of his drink, it gives him white life, but he gets a 30% damage boost.
Oh yeah, Troubleshooter was the Maximilian lookalike.
Yeah, that character had a fall from grace, but that's for that balance. That's for that balance discussion podcast that we'll do in a future date.
Gotcha.
All I can say is top 3 to bottom 1. That's a tragic fall, and I'm not gonna explain how it happened yet, but that's.
Damn, Troubleshooter must have had it really hard. He looked like a really fun character too. He's one of the key things on the game when I first saw that character that looks like he would bring people in.
Yeah, he's sick, or he was. I still think that there's ways to make him look cool, and now, but if you look at how he is now and compare it to how he was before, it's just
He's a shadow of himself.
he's such a shadow of his former self. It's sad, but there's only so much that can be done with that. But yeah, pretty much all these mechanics existed in like a good harmony until they added Indomitable Spirit, and then it sort of cranked everything too far.
Damn.
Because there are certain characters in this game that were balanced around never having on-demand access to white life. And, well, they get it, and suddenly the tier list changes a whole bunch, but yeah, we'll leave that to a different discussion.
Fair enough. Next question. In terms of the matchmaking experience, how was your general matchmaking experience on the video game? And do you feel like some of the errors or hiccups that may have happened between the variation between PC or console, do you think it led to the death or divide of one of the platforms? Not just not the community, but one of the platforms.
Okay, so this is an interesting subject because PSN, to this day, from release to now, still has a bug. A bug where the lobbies will randomly crash. It is... Nobody knows the reason. And we do know that on PC, there are crashes caused by Launcher in particular. Well, Launcher mainly, it happens mostly with her, just because of the prerequisites for it. I don't know them personally, but I know that they exist. But it can happen with other characters. Apparently Vanguard has it, but I've never had it happen to me. Ranger, I think, has it. Nen, I think, has it. But it's like the game will just randomly crash when certain things happen. And it's kind of tragic. But for console in particular, because I played on console first, the matchmaking back then was fine. And back then there was a group chat on PSN for keeping up games consistently in DNF. And now that I believe there's another one that still does exist for the players on console if they wanted to play the game. Although I don't really think there's too much activity in those anymore. Which is unfortunate, but it is what it is. However, I know that there were constantly people at least trying to make PSN still work, but PSN, unfortunately, just PC has more players, especially once Epic Game Store became a thing, and they let the game be free on that platform twice. And so just the player base on PC is so significantly higher than the player base on console that it fell to the wayside. And God forbid the poor fucking Switch with delay-based netcode.
Oh my gosh, wait, they have a Switch version too?
They have a Switch version that has delay-based netcode and they also released the last DLC for the game, including the full balance patch, on Switch a week early.
Wait, so Switch got the whole balance patch earlier than the other platforms, but it's
A
still
week
on
early.
NetPlay. It's not on
And it's
rollback.
on delay-based netcode, yes.
That's so backwards.
Yeah? It's an interesting situation.
Oh my gosh.
But, yeah, like
I know Switch for
Switch
some
got
games
left.
will kind of struggle, but that's a really unusual productive struggle bus.
Yeah. Where Switch just got the worst of it all. Then PS4 got shafted as well. And PC, we barely got assistance, but we technically got something.
Next question. With what that the communities have to work with, do you feel like new players have a sense of direction with the scene?
No, not really. And being realistic, not really. The scene is generally quiet. The only real things that happen anymore is Rank Night on Mondays, which I do a stream for, and I know that there are others that stream during that period as well from multiple different regions. You have some Brazilian players that stream. You have another homie that I mentioned earlier, GrayCape. That guy still streams during those times, and sometimes on different days. And like I mentioned before, I get to shout it out again. GrayCapedHero coming back with those tournaments starting next week on Wednesday, 8 p.m. It is specifically PC and specifically NA, but I do suggest going on and entering those if you have the ability to.
Absolutely. In chat, the link for Gray Cape's events are also going to be listed down below for you guys at your earliest convenience, along with the backstory for DNF Duel's general story. So that way, if you guys want to in advance, you guys are free to go on ahead and follow the works of that tournament organizer. Follow him, support him, and support the scene. That way, it allows dungeon fighters to still keep going.
Yep.
If I'm not mistaken, he's picking up where he last left off.
He's picking up around the same time slot that Rollback on Block, which is an older tournament series that we used to run. Specifically, I think he's doing an hour later than they did on Wednesdays, but he's picking up around that same time. And before I forget, there is still one more TO that actively goes, although they only run the ladder bracket, and that is Khalil, who I believe they work with Paragon. But he does a bracket that is NA and Europe, and it's the ladder bracket, and gives these players, a lot of these people from both regions, which aren't really the most active in comparison to the Asian scene for the game, the ability to just be like, yep, okay, we're all going to boot up, we're just going to play whoever the hell is enter the ladder, and top 4 in that just gets to go on to its own separate bracket with a match arena, but the ladder is really just more for, like, chill, get a few games in. Or at least that's how I see it, personally.
I mean, getting in games like that is still good. Exhibitions do good in building up a scene to a degree because it allows people to come in from different walks of life at different times for an unknown amount of time. It doesn't have to be like a set time per se that they're coming in, just only around the time in which that it starts.
Yeah. Well, it's a 2-hour block for that ladder, in particular. And it's balanced around a time that's accessible for NA and EU, which is like Sunday afternoons. Which is pretty good. And bringing up exhibitions, there's not any more that happen. Oh, before I forget, for tournaments and just like active stuff, there is also the Training Mode Network, which does its beginner brackets for DNF from time to time. I believe they have one this Thursday. Which works out for anybody trying to enter that's newer and trying to like learn I can't say, or I don't know if they have the best resources for learning, but the Reddit Discord should have you covered for that. And at least there gives you a chance to practice in a place where the skill level is more equaled out compared to if you ping in the Reddit Discord, you might get somebody that's extremely experienced, like me, responding and being like, yo, all right, let's play, which I know is not the most appealing for beginners.
Yeah, got to start somewhere.
You gotta start somewhere. I do try to play subs against newer players. But, yeah.
Have you seen a lot of diversity or any of the results that have culminated from any of those game nights that you were able to join in?
Well, for the ladder bracket that Khalil runs, it's pretty diverse in terms of like who joins. You get numbers, you get different characters coming in because people will try out new characters in that. And in the rank nights, you actively get people from pretty much every region. I know myself, I will be looking into matches where it's like, oh, well, there's this Asian player that I know that will always come into my stream during that block and be like, yo, can I run the mirror? And it'll just queue us in a ranked and we'll run the mirror for like 2 or 3 sets and then on to the next guy. There's just constantly stuff that's always going, or not constantly stuff, but like during those ranked nights in particular, people will show up, people will play. And I know that at the same time, people in the Discords will ping and be like, yo, do you guys, instead of running the rank night, do you just want to run a set right now? Because these people will be like, oh, this is the time where the game is most active. I can boot up. I can try to get games right now. This is a good time.
Okay. And I think that's one of the better times in order to seek sets. That way it doesn't have to be so much for rank night, but yeah, just go on in and just get like in-depth sets.
Yeah. Exactly. You have the ability to just like ping the server and be like, yo, can anybody game? And it's not impossible for people to respond, and it's more likely for people to respond during that time of rank night. And honestly, more people do prefer sets. I've seen from a lot of the older players be like, yo, I just want to run a first 10. I don't feel like doing rank night tonight. And then you'll just get other people to respond and be like, yeah, okay, sure.
Okay. Next question. With what you know about dungeon fighters, do you feel like the IP has aged okay over the years?
Well, for me, I've not been invested in DFO at all personally. I do think that, well, I personally think that DNF didn't get marketed to the best of its ability, specifically because of post-game stuff. Or not post-game stuff, but post-release woes. That being, from what I can tell, the DLC was not commissioned for the game. Like they didn't, or Nexon didn't commission aiding to do the DLC. And this is something that is known from just like the modding community. There was before the season pass and after the season pass. And those had 2 different balance teams. Pre the season pass was Aiding's balance team, which had a vision with the game and knew what they wanted to do. Did we agree with all the decisions? No. But we knew that they at least had a vision of what they wanted for the game to be. And the first patch that came with DLC, Spectre, that added all these system mechanics and changed the game fundamentally was when Nexon took over the balancing. And from what I've heard from people that play DFO, Nexon is not to be trusted with balancing anything. And from what I've personally experienced with DNF, I think I agree with them at this point.
Yeah, the proof is in their pattern.
Yeah. I did explain a little bit of it to you before stream, but this was when they started to uh, give characters the ability to deny things like whiff punishing entirely. So
Yeah, they did really start fucking up the balance patching. My thing is like on that for their development team, do they have anybody there that was like either a game balancer or even a past competitor or something? I mean, I'll give something like 2SKO that. At least it's a dev team made up of past gamers, so you have an idea of what the hell you want to happen over time.
well, aiding did like Ultimate Marvel 3. Like they've done good or well, no, let me correct myself. Not good games, fun games in the past. Because Marvel is a fun game. Could I call that game like good and well balanced and shit? Fuck no. But that is a fun game. They've done fun games before, but Nexon, on the other hand, I don't know how their track record is specifically with fighting games, and I don't believe they have any real prior experience in fighting games. Now, from what I know, DFO was made to like play similar to a fighto, not a fighto, a fighter with like combos and such that you'd have in that game, but I don't know how that plays exactly. And well, when they started to make changes themselves where they said they did choose to use a few choice words, which when you look at how the game is played now, those do not hold up across the cast. They wanted to stop loops, and there's quite a few characters where you still have them looping the same like two moves as their optimal combo. Like there's a lot of shit that just slid through the cracks when Nexon took over. And it doesn't make sense, and they never nerfed it because, oh, well, this is now vital to how the character plays because we fucked up.
Damn.
Yeah.
Just a lot of contradictions.
Yeah.
To direction.
It's very unfortunate.
The Loki, well, that takes care of one of the other things I was going to ask. Because I was going to also ask, in a sense, was there anything that Nexon did in establishing communications with the audience and consumer? But in that regard, going deeper into the company's balancing decisions and the history of said balancing decisions from your take as the player, it doesn't sound like this has any merit.
Yeah, they didn't really listen to us at all. Well, actually, no. Let me correct myself. A lot of people that did not consistently play the game asked for one change, a very, very loud outburst of people asked for more defensive mechanics in DNF because they didn't like how the game felt. They didn't like it being a little bit of a slower, neutral game where you didn't have the ability to just like force things on defense constantly, right? And aiding had their vision of the game, and so they stuck to not really adding any of these types of mechanics, and they just made the game they wanted to make, and it was a very fun game. And then Nexon heard that outcry when they took over, and they added things. They added what the vocal minority wanted. And unfortunately, well,
that minority.
It didn't turn out so good. That minority didn't really stick with the game, and they definitely drew away their more dedicated players with some of the changes they made.
Before we move on to the next question, did it feel like the company's decisions affected more North Americans than, let's say, the Japanese or the Koreans? Or did it affect the Koreans and like other areas more than it did North America?
So I this is an interesting question because the Japanese scene has been like they stay very good when they get people, but they don't get people as often. Uh, but the people they have are very strong. From just like playing within each other, like playing within their scene.
Yeah.
Korea, they get people more often than any other region, I would say. Even now, although beforehand it was NA, before like the season pass started, I would say.
Mm.
Uh, but the Korean scene has done fairly well whenever they get people, but it I can't say that they've really been as affected as NA, where I would say at a point in time we were like the main player base of the game, and then there was just like this gradual decline, and then Korea became what played the game the most.
Damn.
And before I forget with the Nexon bit, from what I know, from things I've heard, uh, and this also, it kind of just like perfectly coincides with them not commissioning DLC for the game. From what I know, Nexon's schedule is only 1 month in advance.
In terms of
Their work schedule. What Tencent, their parent company, gives them is apparently only 1 month in advance. They get their work's month on a schedule. Do they get the month in advance? No. They get their month's work on a schedule.
damn. So you only have a month, and that's wait. What type of supply and demand is that? That's really poor scheduling to be able to try and do what you can. And
it's Tencent. They have that money. It's Nexon. They have that money. Like the amount that they make from other titles is so vast that they can afford to be messy and just sweep things under the rug. Like, these are the people that have an income stream from a game like fucking MapleStory. That game makes mad money.
MapleStory. I do know that game, actually. I don't see anybody really talk about it, but yeah.
That game is just like something that people play in the background. Like, it has a very dedicated community that just plays it. And they keep on supporting the game, and therefore from them supporting the game, it gets Nexon paid. And what happens with that? They use that on projects that they think will work out. Like DNF. Or you have that Dark Souls like that's coming out, the first Berserker game. I believe that comes out of Q.
Yeah,
that's relatively soon.
That one is a soon one coming out. It's made by the same developers as this. It's made by the Nexon partners.
Yeah.
Okay. Next question. I want to delve into the money issues. Hey, AB, thank you with the redeem. I'll go ahead and set up. I actually do need to set up real quick so that way I can answer this question.
Bless.
With money, were there any like money issues that you can remember with any of the scenes that you visited, or coming from the parent company, like big money from companies that helped to resume investment to the IP's growth?
Well, I think the
like a can opener or something along that lines, where like there would be like a huge investment sponsorship thing.
Two things I can really say on this. One of them leads back to, well, did they commission aiding to do the DLC? Remember that scheduling bit I brought up earlier? No. Had they just paid them to do the DLC, they would have worked on the game for longer. it would have been under competent hands for longer and built a scene in a better sense, while also not leaving the community high and dry for a year without information about any of the DLC stuff, because that's what ended up happening. We didn't get any information on the DLC till Arc World Tour finished, and we already got shafted at Arc World Tour, and it wasn't like Arc World Tour was won by a DNF player, somebody that mainly played DNF. It was won by Goichi, playing a top tier for the patch.
The master of all, the Lord of Defense, the Wall. It's not about money, it's about setting a... You might be onto something, AB. But damn, DNF was won... Wait, but that particular tournament was won by Goichi.
So, you had... You know what the Arc World Tour is, right?
Yeah, it's like a culmination of, like... It's an endgame thing for the anime video games, specifically the lesser seen ones. It's like their thing.
It's currently, or this...
Because the one just passed was...
I was going to say, this year's and next year's were Guilty Gear Strive, Grand Blue versus Rising, and Uni.
Yeah.
So, before this one, there was just Strive and Grand Blue. And the one before that, well, no, I lied. Because Actually, no, it was, because they added Grand Blue late. My bad.
And then the year before that,
the year before that was just Gear. And the year before that was Gear and DNF.
Wait, which Gear? Like, just
Strive.
A Guilty Gear in general?
All of them Strive.
All of them. Oh, wow.
Or all of them that would be like relevant to context here, which is year of DNF, year after that, and more like current day stuff. But DNF was on for a year, where we got exactly 0 announcements from the developer. Actually, no, that's a lie. I believe it got discussed in the Gone Mad video. We had that one cake image with the DLC characters that we got at 100 days of the game being out. That was completely cryptic, and nobody that hadn't played the that hadn't played DFO would understand what they were referencing with it.
Yeah, because if I was first looking at that picture, had he not said anything, I wouldn't even looked at that shit. It looked almost like a gag image that someone would just tweet out on something. It's just like, yee.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, oh, it's just there.
Because a company would tweet out something like that as a gag image and nothing else with it. Yeah, I wouldn't think anything else of it.
I remember seeing it. I was like, oh, okay, we got to 100 days. Sure, nice. I understand. We've been up for 3 months. Woo! We've made profit. I hope. I don't think they did, but I don't know.
I wonder myself.
But hell.
Let's see here. Next question. I want to talk about the DLC pass and how the characters affected the grid and the meta over time or investing further to the game.
Okay.
Alright, and chat, I'll post a link when I can find it regarding the timestamps of each DLC character's general release that I had from the Gone Mad video.
Well, I think Gone Mad did a fairly good job of like explaining how sort of like people responded to the release of these characters, in terms of just like, oh, the excitement, the hype from people playing the game, from people not playing the game. So I'll take a little bit more of like an aspect on the competitive side of things here, where it's just like viability and such. And with that, we'll start with Spectre, because she was the first one to drop, where she has kind of just been like a mid-tier the entire time. She started in the game when she got released. She was like a lower mid-tier, She was executionally demanding, and she like had some matchups that just really sucked. And even now, to this day, some of those matchups still retain. Launcher Spectre is fucking abysmal for Spectre. Uh, Still not the worst thing in the game, but it's rough. And now, like compared to that character's release to now, she is, I would say, high mid tier. If there was not the division of the top 7 to everybody else, she would probably be like a high tier character. But that division is such like a distinct line in the sand for this game that she doesn't really push that any farther. A good character, but unfortunately, a good character isn't enough in this game. You need somebody broken, like Brawler, our next DLC character on the lineup. Uh, this character released top 3, and he's arguably still right there. So, how do I explain? He has. Well, actually, I'll break down a few of his things. First off, this character just kills you. He can TOD you off of a 2A if he has resources for it, like assuming he was at low health. Even at like pristine condition, round start, he can still take 50% under optimal conditions off of a jab. He's also got 2 of the best armored moves in the game. He's got the only armor that refreshes its hits. Armor normally takes 3 hits. He can get up to 9 hits of armor. And he's got frame 3 armor on a 2-hit move where if you block the... Or let me correct myself. On a 2-hit move where if the first hit just goes through, right, and it whiffs, it can whiff perfectly fine. The second hit always drops. And the second hit's a projectile, and the projectile's plus on block, and it will also be like fine as a combo breaker, even if you hit like let's say you hit him after the armor activated. You would get punished by the second hit, or not after the armor activated, but after the armor ran out. You would get punished by the second hit dropping down on your head, and he would get a combo.
Damn.
And his execution for, at least in the original patch, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, the original patch he was released in, he could just do very easy, like simple combos and get extreme amounts of damage. If you look up old clips of him, you'll see him just doing a 5S into 4M. 4M being the armored move that I was talking about, and 5S being a move that vacuums people in.
Oh, okay. And yeah, his patch was the September 2023 patch.
I believe so. Because Spectre was 3 months beforehand and was announced a little before that at a games festival, if I remember correctly. But yeah, you have Spectre, you have Brawler, and then you have Battle Mage. Oh, actually, before I go on to Battle Mage, I also forgot one more thing about Brawler. That character has one of, I would call, 3 unfuckwithable setups. There's 3 top tiers with 3 setups that you just have to respect. One of them is Brawler with his barrels. And he has a way of setting up the barrels in such a manner that if you were to just block, you would take about a third of your life in chip and get guard broken.
Oh, damn.
And he hits you and you die. And if you happened to use the system mechanic Indomitable Spirit to try and get past the guard break, you are taking on even more chip to barely not get guard broken, and then play RPS around a character that hits you for 50% casually. Very fun.
Just nah. That is some out of pocket E damage and setups.
Yeah.
That does sound like it's unfuckable.
I wish. Actually, no. There is a tournament that you can look up the footage of. That being, I believe, Frosty Faustings 24. Yeah, Frosty Faustings 24. You can look up the footage of that. There's 2 brawlers in top 8. And you can just watch what they. Hell, you could watch the game that I got fucking cooked, because I got cooked in that top 8 by brawler. I got put in the corner. I saw him spin at me casually with that armor. With that armor that refreshes. And it made the barrels that it detonated made it safe. Or not safe, but plus. And so he got to do it again with another set of barrels. It's very fucked up. Oh yeah, that's the actual thing. Most characters in this game require meter to combo.
Oh, okay. That explains it. Because you can't really do combos for free in this game.
Brawler can.
Do they scale or they don't scale?
They don't really scale that hard. I can feel it from here.
It's just the character's not playing by the rules.
Exactly. And speaking of characters not playing by, well, let's say traditional rules, let's get into Battle Mage. This character's not a good character.
She looks like a fun character, though.
She is... For people that do not actively play, she looks fairly fun. For people that actively play, most people consider her like the most boring character in the game in terms of like how she flows and how her gameplay works. Is she fun to play? Battle Mage players seem to think so. Is her game plan fun to interact with? Not in the slightest. Because this character... Well, first off, let me explain why she's bad. This character has her jabs, and they reach longer than any of her other buttons, so she cannot confirm off of her jabs at tip range.
Damn,
it limits
okay.
her ability to actually be effective at ranges where she would be effective.
Because I've seen the combos online, and they look like they do a pretty good amount of damage for like all the different things that you can put into your combo without it dropping or without it scaling too badly. And it's like creating combos looks like fun. Like she's like a custom combo little character.
The problem is you just need to actually be within range, and yeah, not always. Another the main gimmick that character actually had, though, it wasn't custom combos. I'd say the character that goes to is Striker. If not Striker, then probably Vanguard, where that character has a restriction on how his buttons work, but he can convert off of basically anything. And then Striker has rebeats, so you can just do whatever the fuck you want. But that's besides the point. Going back to Battle Mage, this character's main gimmick is she has stocks that she can build. Her 5M, when she has no stocks, will generate a stock immediately, which she can conversion cancel to just like get it. She can also do this with her 6S, which, if she has no stocks, will spawn her 2 stocks. And she can conversion cancel and just get the stocks early without having to like spend them on the move. And the same thing is possible with her 5M, except she can build up all 3 of her stocks. And these you got to use in 3 different ways. First, as I said, you had your 5M, which gained you stocks if you didn't have any. But if you did have a stock, it was just a projectile. It was a very good projectile because it hit 5 times. But it hit in a very jank way, but it was good for breaking armor. So it was good for holding down neutral versus characters that would just like, okay, I'm going to armor here at outside your spacing and make it very annoying for you to contest me. Okay, just projectile. Then she had her 6S, which was mainly used in pressure, where if she had stocks for the button, it would make it you would go from being able to roll it normally, where it had to gain stocks, compared to not being able to roll it at all if she had the stocks. And the last and most important one is her DP. This character has a comically slow DP in the grand scheme of things. And I want to say it's like 23 frame startup for the actual hit, which is slow. But it was also the safest DP in the game. If I'm remembering correctly, it's like minus 16 with no stocks. However, with stocks, it got less and less minus.
Stocks come every time he gets his knockdown, or?
No. So you have multiple ways of building stocks. You have 1, 5M when you have no stocks, you'll build the stock. 2, you hit any A or B normal. They have to be on hit, unless you have gold cube, which is 30% or under on a low health character, in which case you got it on hit and on block, which when that character was in gold cube, she was concerning, but that was also a low health character in a game where 50% is a casual occurrence.
Chat, that's kind of Mickey.
It is indeed kind of Mickey.
My goodness, man.
But the main thing about that DP and the stacks there is it always consumed all of your stacks if you hit the DP. But depending on how many stacks, you would go from a minus 16 DP to, like, I want to say it was minus 10 or some shit like that, to, with 1 stock, to, like, minus 7 with 2 stocks, to plus on block, with full stocks. So, this character could casually just build up stocks, and then she can run up to you, and she would DP. And depending on how many stocks she had, the DP would also be comboable.
Ew.
If she had 3 stocks, it was comboable consistently. If she had 2 stocks or 1 stock, it could combo specifically in the corner. And of course, if she had 3 or 2 stocks, it was pretty much just like, okay, I lost my turn if she had 2 stocks, or okay, I just DP'd, block my next mix. Well, actually, I say mix, but this isn't a mix game. Unless you're counting strike throw, but if you throw somebody in this game, you're just giving them the ability to neutral skip, so you don't want to do that.
Oh, yeah, makes sense. You throw them to increase the distance. Yeah.
It increases distance away from target, which gives them the ability to neutral skip, especially against a character like Battle Mage that doesn't really have range. And then, well, white life access, because throws give you white life. And that character kind of just, like, she got buffed, and it was pretty much nothing. Like, they were nice. They didn't change anything, really, that the character had issues with. It was like, oh, her jump approach is better, with universal changes to how like jump lights worked, where you can get more than one jump light if you did a rising jump light and then did a falling one. And hers is very good, so it's just like, oh, well, that's a good buff to her. But in general, she didn't get anything like specific to her when the one patch that came that could buff the DLC characters came.
Yeah, it wasn't like character defining for a patch note for her.
Yeah. It was like, oh, okay, she's like a bottom 5 character. She doesn't really do much of anything that's better than anyone else. And then she got buffed, and she's still a bottom 5 character that doesn't really do much that's individual and like better than anyone else.
Damn. You go from bottom 5 to being buffed into bottom 5. Like, chat, make that make sense.
She got buffed, it just wasn't meaningful.
Yeah, like... I just don't know.
Yeah. But that's pretty much the long and short of her. Now, I was showing you this a bit before we started. Monk.
Yes, he came out in his patch.
He dropped, and he was, depending on who you asked, somewhere from top 5 to top 1. The way that his game plan works, because I explained why he was broken to you earlier.
Yeah.
And that just being, he has the most egregious version of pretty much every tool, as well as being the only character in the game. Well, let me not say that. We're about to get to Nen, who also has a little something, but it's different. Monk breaks the rules of the game by having grounded overheads, which is not something that any other character in the game has. He has 2 of them. Both are extremely good.
Oh, they just made sure that big priesty boy was just juicy.
Yeah.
And pause, chat.
And he technically got nerfed. He, in the one patch that we had that could nerf him, he got nerfed. But they also buffed him. They nerfed him in one way and gave him more.
Bruh.
Well, no. Let me not lie. They nerfed him in one meaningful way, and I say meaningful in quotation marks, because that JS that I showed you, the jumping normal that vacuumed in, it used to be that whether you hit one hit or both hits of it, you can confirm into Monk's dive kick. Well, I say dive kick, but like his dive punch. Off of either. And it was more optimal to cancel off the first hit if you knew that you got it. And in the patch they made it, you, like, if you canceled on the first hit, it would not combo into that dive punch. What this did was it took 50 damage off of that starter. Oh, so scary. That's like 5%. That's 5% on the lowest health character in the game. So think about that on a higher health character, and think about how much that actually meant in the grand scheme of things. And that's the type of nerf that we got for Monk.
That's not much.
That's not much. So, yeah, that character spawned in top tier, stood top tier.
And that is a rare occurrence where a DLC character literally can survive the patch notes and still come out on top, literally.
Yeah. Depending on who you ask, you get different placements for him.
But none of them, I guess, are below mid.
None of them are below top 5.
Okay.
I personally have him as number 4 on my list. That is definitely biased by matchup. if I had a worse matchup into him, I imagine I'd be crying. But I'm lucky, so I take that. But let's, before I get sidetracked too much, get into our last DLC character, Netmaster, where in the twilight of everything, they somehow managed to make a balanced character. Spectre started low tier, Battle Mage started low tier, Brawler started top tier, Monk started top tier. Only character they got right on release was the last one. Nen is strong but not broken. She has fucked up leg tools. She's got a frame 1 projectile invul move that travels half screen and also is like 50% on the combo starter, but it's unsafe as shit. She's got a very good install that like makes her moves do chip damage and gives them extra hits, which makes them good for breaking armor. A really good pressure character. And she's got an instant overhead, but the instant overhead only does like 20 to 30% unless you're putting a super behind it. But if you're putting a super behind it, you better have killed off that shit, or else you're losing out on other benefits. So that's a character where her release version is the version we have right now, and she is like dead center of the tier list. Where this is a good character, a well-designed character in a game that is not meant for those. And I think that covers the DLC season in terms of like a competitive aspect where in the end, the only characters on this that I can say are consistently 100% viable are Brawler and Monk.
Like in the finality of it all.
Yeah, if you were going to solo main any of the 5 DLC characters, Brawler and Monk are solo viable. Spectre requires some sort of pocket character because this character, while being good, every single time I look at the tier list, every single time I see Spectre players talking, it's somebody has figured out something new to fight the character. So she's only sliding down the tier list. Slowly, but it's happening. Battle Mage, that character has never really been that good. And she's just staying that way. Like, there's not much to really say. Pretty much everything has been labbed with her from what I know, and it's just unfortunate. And then Nen has good matchups that are relevant, like top tiers. She's good against certain top tiers. She's bad against other ones. She's present. Is she the best? No. Is she the worst? No. But would I suggest solo maining a character like that? You can. I wouldn't recommend it, mainly because of the things I say about this character being balanced. She is one of the few characters in this game that you could say has the damage of like a normal person. Like if you look at a different fighting game than this, like I'll use Uni as a comparison because that's a game I play. If you look at like a basic Uni combo, it's pretty much what Nen would be doing in terms of damage. Like she does like 30% on average hits and shit. She's not.
Okay, so Nen keeps it pretty simple. She's not nuking you, but she's doing consistent damage to you.
She's doing consistent everything. Like all of her kit is just consistently good. And her install buffs her kit in a way that makes it better and like function better. And her damage is consistent but like not oppressive. She's a very balanced character. The problem is she's in DNF, which is not a balanced game.
Which explains kind of why she's playing her own game in a game that should kind of be autopiloting for you for the most part.
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, I don't want to say autopiloting. There's definitely still some thought behind what you do in this game. It's just, it's a very simple way that you play. So, not all that much concern, but I think that covers it for the DLC characters. That's pretty much all I can say on their competitive viability. The best otherwise would just be like, yeah, go watch the footage, because that'll do better than I ever could.
Okay. Um. Well, before I move on to the next question, in total, do you feel like all the characters now in Finality, do you think that they helped enrich anything with the game, or kind of add to a few of the problems with the game?
Monk adds to the problems with the game. Brawler adds to the problems with the game. Uh, Spectre doesn't really add to the problems with the game. Nen doesn't add to the problems with the game. And Battle Mage doesn't add to the problems with the game. The characters that are good are problems. The characters that are bad were made on a more reserved side, and while I think Battle Mage could probably use a rework as well, just because I don't like the concept of like a character's gimmick or a character's main gimmick being a plus on block DP. That's just a personal thing. That character
That is
is
kind of
in a way
nasty
that
when you
she's
think
like,
about that, because a DP should
yeah,
generally be negative because it's a commitment for being an invul move.
yes, exactly. Which is why I say I would like a rework for that character personally, but I also just understand that at least she's balanced in this current chaotic mess that we have compared to other DLC characters, which are like actual problems that if the devs suddenly announce today, we're doing one more patch, we'll actually listen to the community and shit, we'll take all their words. Yeah, we got other things that need to go before her.
Yeah,
I don't
and
need to say
then middle
much.
class is kind of just, you're still in the
They're,
middle class.
yeah, they just everybody stays where they were. The devs didn't. The devs when it swapped from aiding to Nexon. Although aiding was a let's buff everything first type deal when they could. Like Grand Bounce patch was an interesting patch. Or Grand Balance Patch 1.0. Let me correct myself, because now we have two of those. The second one being the Nen Master patch, the one we're on right now. But the first one, when aiding was still in control, was it was designed in a way that things more made sense. Characters checked each other in like meaningful ways compared to Nexon patch, where the sort of homogenized mechanics and like how things are more universal just ruined how characters were balanced, like what their strengths were, what their weaknesses were, and how they were able to cover for them with the system mechanics that they had access to. And that's how every single one of the characters continued to stay the way they did. It's like, well, these things that exist in the game will never be weak, or these things that exist in the game will never be strong, whether or for whatever reason. For each individual move, it would be like a case-to-case basis of why this is extremely good or why this is extremely bad, with the system mechanics in mind.
Okay. Next question. When do you think the game actually died?
Ooh, that's that's hard. That's an interesting question. Uh, so my personal opinion, right? Well, no. Let me start with what I think would be the more accurate opinion. Uh, this game died after Brawler got released. Because that was the last character that had a active set of eyes and like people being hyped for the game and a more like outspoken manner. Monk brought back people in a similar way, but not for an extended period of time. Hence why I would say Brawler was the one that, like, after that character released, it was 100% we knew it was doomed. I think the community, in particular, what came before, all sort of gave up during the DLC season at different points in time. And it was just everybody slowly lost faith in the developers. And when they finally, the developers said, yeah, okay. Well, not they said, but when we sort of realized the developers were going to do a patch for the final DLC character, none of us were looking forward to it. We all were just like, at least what we have now is like we can make this work.
It was manageable to a degree.
It wasn't good. Not in the slightest. We were still reeling from what we lost. But it was better than now. It made more sense. And I say this as somebody where my character got buffed and went down the tier list. So But if you're asking when the game died by popular opinion, it would be around when Brawler dropped. If you're asking when I think the game died personally.
Okay, and chat for context, that would be, hang on, Brawler's drop. Brawler.
September 23.
That was, yeah, so that was the fourth quarter of 2023.
That was a year and some change in to the game's life cycle, and I think it was over then. And I would say two other bits that I would say where portions of the game died. I think the competitive community for the game died at Combo Breaker 24. That was the last major that we had. And
that kind of goes into my the funding aspect, because I'm pretty sure the funding with a game as uniquely tailored as this one, a fiscal consistency or a sense of it would help to navigate its competitive scene for mid to the higher levels, possibly even the top level.
Yeah,
and you're saying 2024 was when they had the cutoff of, I guess, like the biggest representation at that point, or what would be considered one of the bigger representations. Repeat what you said?
Yeah, I held on because I noticed something was going on in the background. But in terms of money and investment from the developers, we had it before, or we had it Arc World Tour time until the year changed. So like 2022 until 2023, there were constantly the developers dropping in like $1,000 pop mode system brackets. Like weekly, there'd just be an $1,000 pop bonus casually in a tournament, and you just be like, oh, well, okay. I know there were people that had to start filing out specific tax forms for their earnings from the game because they would make enough within a week. They'd just win a tournament every single day of the week back when the game was still active.
Damn,
and they'd make enough money that they'd have to fill out a tax form for specifically that.
I could believe it, because after what Guy Mad told me about some of the earnings that he had, and I'm just like, and there's other people that were higher up on the ladder than him. I'm just like, damn, they were literally, you damn near putting yourself through college winning this shit.
Yeah.
Like this game was literally making big fucking bucks.
Yeah, and Nexon was just tossing money at us because they didn't toss DLC at us. They didn't toss any information at us.
I mean, I guess tossing money is the next best thing.
They tossed money at us, and when they stopped tossing money, guess what happened? The people dried up.
Yeah.
And so that's when you had like the player base really died down, where you could say the game truly died at like spectator level would be around when Brawler dropped, because people weren't really invested in the game and watching the game and seeing how the game developed at that point. And then the game competitively as a whole, I would say, died at Combo Breaker 2024, because that was the final major that we got for the game. There's events that we've had, smaller events that have happened past that, but in terms of just like being there as a main game at a major and just being able to like have that presence, our last one was Combo Breaker 24. And I know that for sure because, well, somebody in the scene did everything they could to get it there for one last run, so the game will still show up as a side game for a lot of these tournaments. It was a side game at Frosty's, but like that game has been relegated to the point of now it's just a side game now everywhere. It's lost its luster, and it's kind of tragic considering a lot of other games for our like fighting games in the market lasted significantly longer than it did.
Yeah.
But that's also what happens when you have shifting development teams and changes to system mechanics that ruin how the game was supposed to have, or the game was supposed to flow. So
Next question. In your opinion, if DNF Duel was relaunched today at face value, do you feel the game has a chance on today's market?
Okay. This is hard. Because I do this by patches in my head, right? If we release this in the final state that aiding left the game, before the DLC, right? If we left it in that state and relaunched it from there, I think there would be a chance. If we took it as it is right now, there is not a chance.
You don't think it would?
The way the game is built now, I do not believe there is a consistent chance of the game coming back. And like getting a good resurgence, or not getting a good resurgence, but getting a good like incoming surge of people with how it's built right now, I don't believe so.
Okay, and that's honest.
Yeah, I believe if you went back a few patches, went to where aiding had left the game, the final state that aiding had a say in, I think that is a better base to work off of and like expand and like adjust from and balance from that point. I think if you were to go back to that, you have a better chance of making it work on the market right now.
Next question. What would you change about the gameplay, or what would you propose to make it better or more appealing for newer players to come, or even for older players to return?
older players returning, that'll happen whenever they feel nostalgic. If they even can feel nostalgia for this version of the game. Because honestly, again, I bring it up, I have to view this game in patches. You had the aiding times and the Nexon times, and if, I think you'd get a lot of older players returning if you could bring it back to the aiding times. But I think that in terms of, like, honestly, reverting back to GBP, the original, or not the original, but the final aiding patch, that would be the best way to bring in people. Like, honestly, there's so many changes that you have to make, right?
Right.
That is essentially where you can start from the best as like a clean slate to make something better. Because with how the game is right now, it's too much of a mess to really expand upon, at least in my eyes.
Last question. And chat, also, as we're getting ready to enter the culmination here, if you guys have any questions, comments, or concerns, feel free to go on ahead and post them. We're getting ready to go on ahead and hit the climax point. My question, what point of the game's lifespan did you feel was the best?
So, this gives me a chance to tell some stories. I got 2 or 3 that I can tell here. I'll go with 2. Because the third one, it has to come back to me. It seems to have blinked on me at the moment. But the first thing that I can really bring up was the first major I went and competed for the game. The seeding at this tournament was dog shit. Also, let me put it into perspective. Frosty Fausting's 2023. So this was like February that year. And that was the last stop for Arc World Tour for the game during its Arc World Tour run. And like there was everybody from every region that played the game still actively flew out. Like Europe was there, you had Japan, you had Korea, you had Puerto Rico, like everybody came through. And during that event, right, I got washed out in bracket because the seating was bad and they put me against some people that you might recognize from tournament footage if you've watched. Taco, who was the best troubleshooter before they butchered that character, and then the best monk when that character released. And Cal, the best ranger player of the earlier times of the game. And those 2 players were my 2 people that could make top 8 for pretty much every version of the game I had in pools.
Damn.
So the pool had 5 people that could make it out the pool. Meanwhile, there were other pools where, yeah, it's 3 people, 3 slots to get out, you have 5 potential people, or 3 slots to get out, you have 1 guy that's guaranteed, and every other name is a random. That event had some pretty horrible seating, but all things considered, that Sunday, right, we ran an exhibition for the game. NA versus World. So we had the US and the Canadians versus Japan, Korea, and Europe. And I forget who won that shit. Actually, wait. Yeah, I forget who won it. But even in forgetting who won it off the top of my head, I'm pretty sure the footage is on YouTube. You can find it. Yeah, it would be on the channel Huebert. But it's a good watch. And even not remembering who won at this current moment in time, it was just a fun time where you had all these community members from different regions just in a room, chilling, talking about the game, and just enjoying like what the community brought. And like, I would say personally, it was moments like that that were the most fun time to me. And well, that's the first of the stories, right? And the second one I have is a little more personal to me, where the community, after, well, I had done a lot of streaming leading up to that Frosties, and then after that event, I had done a lot of streams leading up to Combo Breaker that year, Combo Breaker 23. Because I had drowned in pools at Frosties, and I knew that wasn't where my standing as a player should have left me. And so I made a really hard push at Combo Breaker to get top 8. And I got top 16 winner side, and then proceeded to fucking fumble my way out at 9th place. And I came back from that event not mad, but I asked the community a favor. I said, I will do a 24-hour stream from the moment I land back in New York. I will fly back from Chicago to New York, go home, and start the stream for 24 hours. And I will stream Uni, and I will stream DNF, and I will fund my way, if you guys allow me to go to CEO that year, which was 3 weeks away from Combo Breaker. 3 week difference from the two events. And lo and behold, it was the DNF community who fucking spoiled me. Where all I asked for from the DNF community was, can you guys cover my flight? Which, it was around $350. They collectively raised me around $550, which also covered my entry for the event.
My goodness.
And I didn't get a medal for DNF at that event when the community gave me everything to like bring me out there. I only got 13th. I was disappointed in it, but at the same time, when getting to that event, I also got 4th at Uni, which was my highest placing at a major thus far for the game. Which was just a personal achievement, and I would have never had the chance to like get that experience had it not been for the DNF community backing me, and I'm gracious for it, for everybody, because it was everyone in the community that really put into that. I had people like DM me that wouldn't really just like talk to anybody and be like, yo, can I just like can you just like DM me your PayPal information, I'll send you like $30. And like people would just do their donations like that if they really wanted to, and it was a gracious time. And those times, the community putting their support behind me, I can really only be thankful for that. And really, I remembered the third story. I'll keep it quick, a little brief here.
Oh, no, you're good. This is your podcast.
No, I do understand, but it's similar to the same, or similar to the last bit, in which it's the community supporting me, although it's another member of the community in particular, a player named Reiko from the Puerto Rican portion of the scene, who they've done a lot for a lot of players over the years. I've listened to his stories on stuff that he's helped out with some of the European players and some of the Korean players during that first year, and I've seen what he did for some of the Puerto Rican players as well. But personally, for me, uh, during 2023, I was traveling a lot, and my or not my last trip of the year, but one of my last trips of that year. Actually, no, I think it was my last trip of that year. Was First Attack, which is the Puerto Rico major, and
Oh.
this member of the community, Reiko, I was like I had my flight covered, I had my entry covered, but I didn't have hotel. And the last second nick of time, who is to message me but Reiko being like, "Yeah, pull up. You just show up to the island because you haven't been here before. I understand that you're just somebody that wants to compete and like have fun with the game. Come." And so I got a free slot in a hotel room, and it managed to get me to that major. And that major, I won DNF. And the person I played in grand finals was the guy who allowed me to get there in the first place.
That's insane.
And I also got grand finals of uni, where instead of fighting the guy who got me to the event, I fought the guy who I fight in grand finals of every local tournament that I was at for the last couple years for uni, because the other New Yorker was also there in grand finals.
Oh my gosh.
And like misused the word gracious first time I used it. I'm sorry, I'm also reading chat. My bad. I'm kind of rambling at this point towards the end here.
Hey, it's a trip down memory lane.
Yeah, a lot of good experiences that I can really only thank the community for just giving me the opportunity, really. I can only thank them for all they've done for me.
It sounds like various stages of the game awarded you with a lot of memories outside the game.
Yeah. I can't say I've made as much money as some of the people that played during the first bits of the game when there was constantly rewards, but or like constantly incentives tossed in and like constantly making just like more of the scene. I came in as the game actively started to decline in like its numbers and such, and so my experience isn't of like the major parts, the bombastic parts of the community when we had all the glitz and the glamour, but it was of the community when it was there, slowly fading and trying to become like the community was trying to stand on its own 2 feet, even when we didn't really have too much from the developers and them supporting us.
Hmm.
And I'm not everything was the greatest ride across every like situation, but there's better people to explain community drama than I am, and I'll let them do that at their own times. All I know is everybody in the community did well by me, and so I can only hope that I can do well by them.
Hey, you've done the best you could, and you continue to do so. You're able to really build off of that fire that the community helped light.
Yeah, it's why even now, even though I can't say I'm the biggest fan of how the game is in its current state, I still boot up my stream every Monday, even if this week I did fall asleep pretty much like halfway through stream and have to go call it early. But I still stream every Monday to try and like push the ranked night for the game because this game still deserves players. There's still something here. Is it made for everybody? No, but if you're willing to look for it, there's still fun to find in DNF. And yeah, I think that would really be my closing thought. Just play the game, enjoy the game for what it is. If you don't enjoy it, I can't tell you to stick around and force yourself to enjoy the game. I would never recommend that to somebody. It's not worth it. But if you see something you like, go ahead, give it a shot. There's bound to be something.
Yeah.
Thank you for giving me the time to speak on this platform.
Always. All right, chat. Are there any questions, comments, or concerns you guys want? Feel free to go into them now.
If anybody's got any questions for me, feel free. I will just I'll light up my smokes in the meantime for just a moment here. But I'm willing to answer anything that I can really have knowledge on if anybody's got any questions real quick.
Yep. Let me know in the next few minutes while I'm sitting here trying to see if I can find us a host in a bit amount of time. In this space, I'm also going to be able to promote. It'll be in the YouTube video version, but during this section here, feel free to tune in to Locked Up for Life, aka LuFL, and support him via the Twitter and or Twitch, and then just join him in any of his boot up streams via on DNF or on Undernight or any other games he may play to support the platform.
I was gonna say if I go my own schedule here, Mondays 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. DNF for the rank night. Wednesdays 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. Uni. That is specifically me running something for the Northeast region for Uni players. Not sleepy stream when. My bad, my bad, Chrome. I'm sorry, bro.
Sleepy stream.
I'll be awake eventually, but now ain't that time. But yeah, Mondays, 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. Wednesdays, 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. And I would say, what do you call it? Fridays, 4 p.m. to whenever the fuck I feel like ending, because it's a Marvel Rival stream and not the traditional fighting game stuff that I would put. But it's me doing something else that I enjoy. And all of which is like, if you ask me, well, for Uni I can't because I'm running something. But for DNF, I'm willing to run sets. For Marvel, just ask in the chat specifically if you would want to enter a stack that I'm in. Although, I will note relatively high ranks, so that might not be the easiest accessible. Also, I see a question in there, a Uni question, not a DNF question, but my question is, am I insane for playing Yuzu with a DualShock 4 and I use the analog stick? So I use the analog. I play on analog stick, but I do not play Yuzu. I play Phonon, and in DNF I play Van. And those characters I think can get away with it. I don't think Yuzu can get away with that. I think you're trying a little too much to get away with that on Yuzu. I know only one person that plays that character on controller. They use D-pad, and their like normal controls are fucked up. They've bound shit in some pretty jank ways. Yes, exactly. Do not speak of Truck. I dealt with him for 7 years. That character is cursed if you're trying to play her on pad. I don't recommend it. I recommend other controllers if you really wanted to play Yuzu. But I'm not your dad. Use as you will.
Well, there you go. I'm not amazing, but I always play on pad, and I've been playing Yuzu since Eunice.
Yeah,
Well, yeah,
no,
you
I
are a
understand.
Eunice player. Yeah.
I've been playing since Eunice as well. It takes a bit to really develop all that skill, just like mechanically. And I mean, if you've been playing that long, you definitely have at least something there. So, do we have any DNF streams live? I'm just checking for posterity's sake. Oh, there's one. Yep. That is a Brazilian stream.
Hey, you know what? Let's do it. Let's bless the EU brothers.
Brazil, EU? Hold on. Brother, have you lost track of the map?
What?
Brazil, South America.
Brazil, country in South. Oh, I am tweaking. Yes, it is. I am incorrect.
It's all good.
All right. Well, South American DNF. We can still bless them all the same.
That's why I assume it's Brazil, but the language is Portuguese, so who knows what we're gonna get ourselves into here.
Let me pull it up on the doodaddles. Hang on. Hang on. Let me just look at the DNF doodad. KyoyaBr, 1v1.
It is definitely DNF. I'm watching DNF get played.
Yeah, I'm watching Ghostblade do the swings.
Yep.
Yeah,
That's a character.
I'll gamble it. Got one. Hang on, let me get ready to pop it on over here. See if I can pop in the address. Americans in geography. Hey, I skip a beat sometimes. It's all good. We get right back on the monitor. As an American, I can say this Americans and any common knowledge. We miss it the first time, we'll get it the second time.
Exactly. We're not the smartest, but the heart's in the right place.
Yeah.
Most of the time.
Alright, but as soon as I pull this up. Okay, here we go. Alright, so we're going to get ready to go on ahead here and raid KyoyaBr. Tune in for the next episode of the Space Bridge. It's either going to be something covering something in another part of the FGC, or it may potentially be my next clientele for the next chapter in my studies through the Dungeon Fighters community, as we continue understanding the stagnation portion. Today was understanding a not-so-stagnation portion, but rather the better part of the memories that this community can really create for people.
Just the best that we can do is all I can share.
And you contributed to a lot. You contributed to a lot tonight for like the memory aspects that can help people really understand like how a game can create memories, even if it's not on the game, but through it.
Yeah, and amen all that the community gave me to get those memories out.
Mm-hmm. You guys got my emotes? Spam them. Let them know where we come from, and I'll see you guys on the next episode of the Space Bridge. Take care.
Thank you all for the time. Take care.
And like I always say, till all are one.